Get out. This cabin belongs to real family members. Amanda screamed, throwing my duffel bag onto the snow-covered porch. I stood there, watching as my sister-in-law, her perfectly manicured hands trembling with rage, tossed out the last of my belongings. My name is Julia, and at 34, I was being evicted from my family's lakeside cabin by a woman who'd only married into the family 3 years ago. The same cabin where I'd spent every summer since I was 6, where my grandfather had taught me to fish, and where I'd scattered my father's ashes last spring. Real family members. I kept my voice steady, though my hands were shaking. I've been coming here since before you even knew my brother existed. Amanda's face twisted into that familiar sneer, the one she perfected since marrying my brother Michael. Well, things change. Michael agrees with me. This place needs updating, modernizing. We can't have you hanging around with your sentimentality. She spat the word like it was dirty. I thought about the renovation plans I'd seen on her laptop earlier, granite countertops to replace Grandpa's handcrafted wooden ones, smart home systems instead of the vintage radio that still played my grandmother's favorite station, a home theater where Dad's old fishing gear hung. Where's Michael? I asked, already knowing the answer. My brother, once my closest confidant, had become increasingly absent whenever conflict arose with his wife. At work, obviously. Amanda rolled her eyes. Someone has to pay for all the improvements this dump needs. Now take your things and leave. We're starting renovations next week. I picked up my bag, brushing off the snow. The cold air bit at my cheeks, but it wasn't nearly as cold as the realization that my childhood sanctuary was about to be destroyed. What Amanda didn't know, what none of them knew, was that I'd been prepared for this moment. 3 months ago, when I first noticed the renovation catalogs arriving in the mail, I'd visited our family lawyer. Old Mr. Peterson had handled our family's affairs since before I was born, and he'd been more than happy to help me understand the cabin's true ownership status. You're making a mistake, Amanda, I said quietly, pulling out my phone. She laughed, high and brittle. The only mistake was letting you think you still had a place here. This cabin belongs to Michael now, and as his wife, I have every right to. Actually, I interrupted, pulling up the email from Mr. Peterson. You don't. Excuse me? Dad never transferred the cabin's ownership to Michael. He couldn't, it wasn't his to give. Amanda's perfectly penciled eyebrows drew together in confusion. What are you talking about? Michael said. Michael assumed, and you both stopped listening when anyone tried to tell you differently. The cabin belongs to me. Grandpa left it to me in his will, specifically to protect it from being modernized or sold. The color drained from Amanda's face. You're lying. Michael would have known. Michael would have known if he'd bothered to attend the will reading instead of flying off to Aspen with you. I pulled up the property deed on my phone and held it out. Would you like to see the documentation? She snatched the phone, her long nails clicking against the screen as she scrolled through the legal documents. I watched as her expression shifted from disbelief to anger to something close to fear. This isn't possible, she whispered. It's not only possible, it's legally binding. Those renovation crews you hired, they'll need my signature to begin work. The contractors you paid, they'll need my approval before they can set foot on the property. Amanda's face had turned an interesting shade of red. We've already paid deposits. The crews are scheduled. We have designers flying in from New York. I picked up my bag and walked back inside the cabin, past her spluttering form. The familiar scent of pine and wood smoke wrapped around me like a warm blanket. That sounds like a you problem, I said, using one of her favorite phrases back at her. Now I believe you're trespassing on my property. Michael will hear about this, she threatened, backing toward the door. Good, I replied, settling into Grandpa's old armchair. While you're updating him, you might want to mention the changes I'm planning for the guest policy, starting with who's no longer welcome here. As Amanda stormed out, slamming the heavy wooden door behind her, I looked around at the cabin. My cabin. The old photos on the walls, the handmade quilts, the morning sun streaming through windows that had witnessed decades of family memories. I pulled out my phone again, this time to call my brother. It was time for a long overdue conversation about family, respect, and the true meaning of heritage. But first, I had some locks to change. The fallout was immediate and explosive. Within hours of Amanda's dramatic exit, my phone exploded with messages. Michael called 17 times, each voicemail more demanding than the last. Our mother, who'd remained neutral in most family conflicts, suddenly had plenty to say about keeping peace in the family. But I wasn't backing down. Not this time. When Michael finally showed up at the cabin that evening, he found me sitting on the porch, calmly drinking hot chocolate from Dad's old camping mug. "What the hell, Julia?" He stormed up the steps, his expensive coat dusted with snow. "Amanda's crying, saying you threatened her." Interesting interpretation. I cut him off. "Would you like to know what actually happened? Or are you just here to yell at me on your wife's behalf?" He ran his hands through his hair, a gesture so familiar it made my heart ache for the brother I used to know. "Jules, come on. You know we need to update this place. It's falling apart." I took another sip of hot chocolate. "Is it?" "The foundation is solid. The roof was replaced 5 years ago, and every piece of furniture tells a story about our family. Well, your family, since apparently I'm not considered real family anymore." Michael at least had the grace to look uncomfortable. "Amanda didn't mean." "Yes, she did," I said firmly. "She meant every word, just like she meant it when she threw my things out in the snow. The only difference is, she thought she had the authority to do it." About that, he shifted uncomfortably. "Why didn't you tell me Grandpa left you the cabin?" "I tried, 3 years ago, at Dad's memorial. But you and Amanda left early for your spa weekend, remember?" The silence that followed was heavy with unspoken accusations. Michael stared out at the lake, its surface reflecting the setting sun in brilliant oranges and pinks. "We've already paid for everything," he finally said. "The contractors, the designers." "I know. Amanda mentioned that several times." "Jules, be reasonable. We can't just lose those deposits. Like I lost my place in this family." I stood up, finally letting some of my anger show. "Every holiday, every family gathering, I've watched Amanda systematically erase our history. She redecorated Mom's house, threw out Dad's vinyl collection because it was cluttering the basement, and now she wants to gut the only place we have left that still feels like him." "That's not fair," Michael protested, but his voice lacked conviction. "No, what's not fair is you standing there defending someone who just tried to throw your sister out of her own property. What's not fair is you forgetting who we are, where we came from, all because your wife thinks our family memories are too shabby for her Instagram aesthetic." I pulled out an old photo from my pocket. Michael and me as kids, sitting on the cabin's dock with Dad, our fishing lines in the water and huge grins on our faces. "Remember this? Remember when our biggest worry was whether we'd catch anything for dinner? When this place meant something more than property value and social media posts." Michael took the photo, his fingers tracing the edges. For a moment, I saw a glimpse of my old brother, the one who used to sneak me extra marshmallows for our campfire s'mores. "Amanda's not wrong about everything," he said quietly. "This place could use some updates. The plumbing." "I know," I interrupted. "That's why I hired local contractors last month to modernize the necessary things. The things that matter for safety and comfort. But I'm not letting anyone tear out these walls or replace Grandpa's craftsmanship with mass-produced furniture." He looked up sharply. "You're already renovating." "Responsibly, respectfully, with people who understand the value of preservation." I took the photo back, tucking it safely away. "You used to understand that too." Michael sank onto the porch steps, looking suddenly tired. "When did everything get so complicated?" "When you stopped standing up for what matters," I answered softly. "When you started letting Amanda make all the decisions about our family's legacy." The sun had almost set now, casting long shadows across the snow. In the distance, a loon called across the lake, the same sound that had lulled us to sleep as children. "I can't get the deposits back," Michael said finally. "No, probably not. Consider it an expensive lesson in reading legal documents and listening to family members." I paused, then added, "But you're still welcome here, Michael. You always have been. Just not for demolition purposes." He managed a weak smile. "And Amanda?" "That depends entirely on her ability to respect boundaries and family history, both of which seem to be foreign concepts to her at the moment." Michael stood up, brushing snow from his pants. "She's not going to like this." "That sounds like a you problem," I said, but this time my voice was gentler. "Maybe it's time you decided what matters more. Appeasing your wife's renovation fantasies or preserving the memories we shared here with Dad." As Michael walked back to his car, shoulders slumped in thought, I knew this wasn't over. Amanda wouldn't give up easily, and our mother would probably continue pushing for family harmony. But standing on the porch of my cabin, Watching the first stars appear over the lake, I knew I'd made the right choice. Some things were worth fighting for, and this was one of them. The next few weeks brought exactly the kind of drama I'd expected. Amanda launched a social media campaign, posting carefully edited photos of the cabin's dangerous and outdated features, rallying her followers to shame me for being stuck in the past. My mother called daily, alternating between guilt trips and negotiations. But something unexpected happened too. It started with a letter from Mrs. Harrison, our elderly neighbor who lived across the lake for 40 years. Inside was a yellowed photograph of my grandfather building the cabin's stone fireplace, along with a note. "I watched your grandfather place every single one of those stones by hand. He said he was building it to last generations. Stand your ground, dear." Then came the local historical society's interest. Apparently, our cabin was one of the last original lakeside structures from the 1950s, and they were eager to document its craftsmanship. The president of the society, a passionate woman named Diana, spent hours photographing Grandpa's woodwork and recording my stories about the cabin's history. "This isn't just a building," Diana told me, running her hand along the hand-carved banister. "This is living history. Your grandfather was an artisan." The Historical Society's involvement changed everything. Suddenly, Amanda's renovation plans weren't just facing family opposition. They were threatening a potential historical landmark. Her Instagram followers started questioning her intentions, especially after Diana's Preservation Society shared their own posts about the cabin's architectural significance. One morning, I arrived at the cabin to find Michael sitting on the dock, coffee mug in hand, staring out at the water. "I've been here since sunrise," he said as I approached. "Just remembering." I sat down beside him, letting my feet dangle over the water like we used to do as kids. Remembering what? Everything. Dad teaching us to fish, Grandpa telling his ridiculous ghost stories. Remember how he'd always make the lake monster sound different every time? I smiled. And how Mom would pretend to be scared just to make us feel brave. Yeah. Michael took a deep breath. "I talked to Amanda last night. Really talked, for the first time in, I don't know how long." I waited, watching a pair of ducks glide across the lake's surface. "She's agreed to drop the renovation plans," he continued. "Not because of the Historical Society or the social media backlash, but because," he paused, swallowing hard, "because I finally stood up for what matters to me. To us." What changed her mind? Michael pulled something from his pocket, another photograph. This one showed Amanda at the cabin last summer, laughing as she tried to roast marshmallows for the first time. Behind her, you could see all the things she wanted to tear out: the weathered wood panels, the old stone fireplace, the vintage fishing gear on the walls. "I showed her this," he said, told her that this moment, her looking so happy in this imperfect, history-filled space, was worth more than any granite countertop or smart home system. That maybe she'd fallen in love with the cabin's soul without realizing it. And she understood. Not right away. But then I showed her more photos. Us as kids, Dad teaching us to swim, Grandpa in his workshop. Told her all the stories behind every scratch in the floor and every dent in the walls. Finally, she got it. Or at least, she's trying to. I felt tears prick at my eyes. "I've missed you, Mike. The real you." He wrapped an arm around my shoulders just like when we were kids. "I've missed me too." The next weekend, Amanda came to the cabin. Not to argue or demand changes, but to apologize. She brought a peace offering, a small photo album she compiled of the cabin through the years, including recent pictures of her own happy moments here. "I was so focused on making everything perfect," she admitted, sitting in Grandpa's old armchair, "that I forgot perfect isn't always beautiful. This place, it's beautiful because it's real, because it tells a story." Over the following months, the cabin became a gathering place again, but different from before. Amanda learned to appreciate the history around her, even starting a blog about historical home preservation. Michael rediscovered his love for fishing, teaching Amanda how to cast a line from the same spot where Dad had taught us. The Historical Society helped me maintain and preserve the cabin's original features while making subtle updates that didn't compromise its character. The plumbing got fixed, the insulation improved, but Grandpa's craftsmanship remained untouched. One evening, as we all sat around the fireplace, the same one in that yellowed photograph Mrs. Harrison had shared, I realized something profound. Sometimes preserving the past isn't about refusing to change, it's about understanding what's worth keeping. Amanda, curled up in a vintage blanket, was reading one of Dad's old fishing magazines. Michael was showing our mother how to use the new coffee maker we'd installed in the still rustic kitchen. The cabin had evolved, not through dramatic renovation but through gentle integration of the new with the old. Looking around at my family, I knew we'd found the right balance. The cabin wasn't just preserved, it was alive, continuing to create memories while honoring those that came before. Some things I've learned don't need modernizing. They just need protecting, understanding, and most importantly, love.